Hey, welcome back to another video. They think Jesse is racist. Jesse Lee Peterson debates with black Israelites. Ooh, this might be really good. Let's get it, let's go.
So do you love white people?
I love everybody.
No one asking about white people.
Well, I'm gonna keep saying everybody because I don't want to exclude nobody. So
How about you? You love white people?
I love, like, we're not born to hate anyone.
Right.
So
And do you love white people?
I love all people.
Do you love white people?
Are
The
they considered
Caucasian-
people?
Well, they're the
We're
only
not
people.
gonna-
Are they considered people? Yeah, we love everybody. I know why he's asking that though. If you know anything about the black Hebrew Israelites, they can't stand white people. They just can't. Like, they hate them. And that's why he's asking that question. You go and research some videos on them. They believe that white people are the devil that the Bible talks about. Yeah.
Asking about, do
We're
you
not
love
racist.
white people?
Look, I have friends that are from the Caucasian race.
Do you love white people? They're Caucasian.
Caucasian is white.
Right, do you love them?
I love everybody. That's, I mean, we're answering the question. So.
But I do find it ironic that Jesse keeps asking them, do you love white people specifically? When they made Black Lives Matter, right? It was like Black Lives Matter specifically, and there was no specific. It was all lives matter. Why can't they say, I love everybody? They're doing it in response to what white people have already done. That's what they're doing. Like, if you really think about it, that's what they're doing it for.
And so what's the plan? Do you plan on moving back to Israel?
Well, what's going to happen is, according to the Bible, the Most High is going to. You want to get some scriptures on this?
Oh, yeah, but let me ask you this first. You said that white people and other people are oppressing black people, right?
Yes.
Am I right?
Yeah. You don't think you're under oppression right now?
In what way are they oppressing black people?
Okay. Well, first of all, probably like 70% of our people are in jail, right?
Right.
In prison. Gang activity and drug activity is set up by the government. If I wanted to go get a loan, right, in the bank or whatever, they will probably turn me down.
Why?
But other nations can come over here that don't even live here and get a loan off the bat. So you got to see
Why would
that
they
we
turn
are
you
actually
down?
being held down as a nation, and this is a part of the curses of Deuteronomy 28, because he said that you will be oppressed and brought to a land that is not yours. And so we've been here. The first slave, they said the first slave ship came here 1619, right?
Why is everyone using ninja transfers?
Ninja transfers is definitely killing them.
It's 2018, so we're almost in a 400-year period, right? So we're supposed to be oppressed for almost 400 years. So we're approaching that time. Not saying that when we get to 400 years, that's when the Mashiach gonna come back, but we are approaching and we're getting closer to our curses being lifted off of us, because we've been held down for 400 years.
Why wouldn't they let you have a loan at the bank? If you went to the bank and said, hey, I'd like to get a loan, they would say no to you?
More than I have tried to get a loan a couple of times, and I had all of the qualifications that they asked me for,
And they did
then
not.
they made me jump through a million hoops.
Right.
And then other people that I know that's not of the same ethnicity as myself, they can go in there and get a loan. I was about to pay him to go get a loan for me.
But so
For those of you who don't know or understand it, it's banking discrimination practices. This does not mean all white people are racist. It just means that there's some of them, sometimes, like, it's really up to the bank. The bank makes a decision on whether or not they can give you the loan. And banking predatory practices have been happening for a while. They happen to black people, but they happen to white people as well. It's just white people, it's just not discussed as much. But it happens. It mostly happens to poor people. But it is ironic that even black people that have the qualifications, the credit score, the business plan to obtain the loan can get rejected on some dumb shit. But I mean, it's really up to the bank. You know, the bank makes the decision overall. But there is predatory practices. There are many studies on this, just like housing discrimination practices. There are many studies on this stuff.
So, do they? So they didn't let you have it because you were black?
I believe that's the reason.
You believe the same thing?
We go through a lot of things with that. Our eyes are open now to a lot of things we may not have saw before.
She's pretty.
So little things like that we recognize.
Is it possible that due to your anger toward them that you may be living in an illusion?
Who has
We
any
don't have-
towards
It
them?
has nothing to do to color.
We don't have any anger towards
we're
anyone.
not angry
All we
people.
trying to do.
Who are the angry people?
We're not angry.
Oh, you
people.
two are not.
Yeah.
Oh, but everybody else in them.
No, I'm not saying everyone is. I'm just saying, that's a lot of the stereotypes we
So
get.
you don't think that our people is under oppression?
Not because of the white man.
Oh, you don't? Who rules the world right
They
now?
are under oppression because they have hatred in their hearts. And that hatred in their hearts is what
Who got
pulling
hatred in
them
their
back.
hearts?
Black people.
So you have hatred in your heart?
I had it, but it's gone now.
Okay, so
And it doesn't start with the white people. It starts, most black men and women hate their mothers and grandmothers. And
He looking back like, what the fuck? He looking back like, Jesse be saying some bullshit.
because they won't forgive them, they're living in darkness. And in that darkness, they're living in
Like,
illusion. And so they've been told by the enemies of good that it's the white man, when it's really they're hating their mothers and yearning for their fathers.
So
Have you ever heard of Stockholm Syndrome?
Yes,
You know what that is?
yes.
What is it?
It's when Patty Davis was captured by the Black Panthers, and they tortured her, and she began to hate them. And once she began to hate them, she identified with them and started supporting them.
Okay.
As you become attracted
So are
to what
you
you hate.
you talking like Patty Hearst right now?
How's that?
Because you loving the oppressor. Now, is our nation being oppressed right now?
No, not by white people.
Who are we getting oppressed by then?
Black people.
I don't understand.
So I do love all people. I love white people. I
But
love
you don't love
the
black
Jews. I love the blacks.
I'm gonna tell y'all something, man. Okay, and it's hilarious because it's funny, but the minority can't oppress the majority. It's impossible. It's impossible. Now, can it happen in a place where there are majority black? It could, but we're in a majority white country. As everybody can see with clearly everything being passed, ICE, the Gestapo, getting $100 billion put in them. I'm just playing. They're not the Gestapo, but they're getting paid more than the FBI is by the government. That's crazy. Hell, who knows? Maybe a good thing or a bad thing. It doesn't matter. But I don't think it's possible that the minority can oppress the majority. I don't think that's possible. But I mean, maybe he has an explanation.
But you can't say you love the whites.
Yes, I did. I said I love everybody.
No, everybody is not white. You said something else that I got to get to. You said that an example of being oppressed is that the blacks are in jail, they're committing violence, gang members and stuff like that. Do you blame white people for that?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
So I grew up under the Jim Crow laws.
It's not fully their fault.
I remember for colors only signs, for whites only signs, I was restricted to where I could live. But because we had fathers and mothers getting married, out of wedlock birth was an embarrassment. Abortion was unheard of. Blacks were taught to work and build. I had family members who owned land. Some of them never worked the plantation because they owned land and did their own thing. They were not going to jail. I didn't grow up with one person going to jail. No one around me was going to jail. If white people were oppressing and we were under the Jim Crow laws and they were causing black on black violence and incarceration, why didn't we see it then instead of now? Why did we see it then?
So you don't think that that's hatred?
No, but tell me
from
why did... No, the question is, if it's the fault of the oppressor that blacks are in jail, why didn't we see it back then as opposed to now?
Why didn't we see it back in Jim Crow days?
Yes.
Actually, our people was more actually structured back in those days. They was fighting for their equal rights. They was more organized.
But they were not organized.
Yeah, right
They
now.
weren't even thinking.
And you did see it back in those days. Black people were able to be lynched back then. Like, when people go back to the 1950s and use that as the talking point, it's just hilarious that they leave out all the things that could have happened around that time to black people. And that in a sense, because there was no economic vehicle to help us go where we need to go, we stuck by each other and stuck together and built our businesses together, which is what we actually probably should have stuck to. And maybe we would have probably had more resources, because the other argument I would make, like he's saying black people did better at those times, but black people did better at those times when they were separated from white people, not when they were integrated with white people. There's so many times that black people had to go over to gain resources from white people, but the majority of the time they didn't. The integration part is what a lot of blacks would say was the fault of the black community, because we were never really wanted in the white community, just out of truth.
Right now, everybody is going for
self. It's not
self.
true. They were not organized at all. They were living. They were not identifying with preachers. They were not identifying with black politicians or anybody. They only got their identity from family, from God, and from family. They were not. They had no leaders. And
they became organized.
See, now this is what.
And that's the point. They became organized.
This is why you need to understand.
Let me guess. You're thinking about going to therapy. And as a therapist myself...
Oh man, I keep telling everybody to go to therapy.
About a Hebrew Israelite. Because when everybody understands who they are and why things happen the way that they happen, then you will understand where you're going. You will understand what's taking place. You will understand that we need to move forward and do what we got to do for the Most High.
But why didn't we see incarceration and abortion and all that junk during the Jim Crow era, as opposed to now when blacks are free? If it's a white man,
well, you know that abortion is being pushed by the government upon our black people.
I know, but the point is, when blacks were under those laws, why didn't we see incarceration and all that happening then, as opposed to now?
Well, right now, I think that they locking a lot more of us up. They have.
You actually did.
The three strike law, right? So you can get in trouble for one thing, and you can get 3 strikes off that one thing. So now our brothers is being, and now the jail.
You're not telling me why it wasn't out of control prior to the Jim Crow laws. Prior to overcoming the Jim Crow laws. Why didn't we see it then if it's the white man who was oppressing black people?
Because white people can lynch black people, and if a crime came up, or the claim of a crime came up, majority of the time they wouldn't take the time to try to arrest, and they would most of the time. The prisons were still more filled. I don't know, actually. I might need to look into that, actually. Let me look into that, actually. I don't know. Were there blacks in prison at the same rate as now? Probably not. It probably has accelerated now because of mass incarceration. But I do wonder. That's a really interesting point, Jesse. I hear you. I'm hearing you.
They did see it then. You don't think who was they marching against?
Right.
Who was spraying us with water hoses?
That's oppression.
But it wasn't oppression. It was a wrong law that was put on by the government, Democratic Party, by the way, the government, and it wasn't oppressing us. We didn't feel oppressed. We saw the signs, but because we were free within, and we believed in God.
Think he was getting oppressed?
Yeah, no. The only thing that Martin Luther King did and should have done and then dropped it was to fight to change the laws, and so that the same laws that govern and protected white folks were applied to black folks. Other than that, blacks would have been fine.
The white people that you love go against you on that. They gave Martin Luther King his own day.
And he just said that there were laws. He should have fought with laws. There were laws that oppressed black people. Like, to know that, like, it's like a gaslighting thing that happens in most of these type of conversations. So a lot of them know that there were laws that oppressed black people, but they ignore that and wonder why the black community is in the situation it is today. Maybe some of those laws had a detrimental effect on the future of the community to a degree, right? And maybe that's why black people are trying to roll back on some of those laws. I always ask the question of 1865 is when it's the 1865, 1866 Emancipation Proclamation. And there was a 100-year period. What happened within that 100-year period where you had to have a Civil Rights Act? Like, what happened, And then, like, through that 100-year period, do you think that 100-year period where you had to have a Civil Rights Act because of what was going on could have had some detrimental effects on what's going on today? Use your brain. Don't use your emotions. Jump in the comments and try to debate me on that. I'm curious.
You say that I love...
Because they think that the things that he was fighting for was justified. You wouldn't even be able to sit in the front of the bus if it wasn't for Martin Luther
That's why
King.
they
And
need to
Rosa
change the
Parks.
laws.
Huh?
That's why they need to change the laws because
And he had to do drastic
Yeah,
things
not
to change
everything
the
else
laws,
is
and he did his with peace. We got Malcolm X who
when
do
you say the white people that I love, am I not supposed to love them?
Yeah, I'm saying you love
Should
them,
I love white people?
but do you think you white?
So let me
Or
ask.
do you think you, what are you?
I'm asking, should I love white people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
they
why
love
do you
you.
say the white people that you're supposed to love?
Because-
As though I should love them.
Because what I'm saying is the way that you're expressing your love is different from mine.
How's that?
Because you're condoning wickedness.
How's that?
Because it's a lot of wickedness that takes place that they have done against our people, and you want to have a blind eye to it.
How am I having a blind eye?
It's
Yeah.
like
Okay,
you're
now
not
when we came over
recognized.
here in slave ships, was that racism?
No.
That
It
was
wasn't.
racism?
He just playing.
Why do you
What
say
kind of show
that?
we on, man?
Why do you say that was racism?
To capture and force people to go somewhere that they don't want to go.
And who were the racists promoting that, doing that? Who were the people doing that?
The so-called white man.
No, that's not true.
It's not true.
Black people were sold into slavery by blacks, wealthy, to the Arabs.
Let's get Psalms
And it was
83.
Yeah,
it was the
Let's get
Arabs.
Psalms 83 real
Let me
quick.
just finish this. And
All
then
right.
we,
I love this type of conversation because, again, I always say this to everybody who wants to think this. If you want to know who fucked over black people, everyone did. The transatlantic slave trade was an enterprise that had black people involved, white people involved, Arabs. Everybody did. Everyone did. When we came over to this country, though, how we were treated was a different conversation when it comes to slavery, right? Afterwards, it was how blacks were treated. They weren't welcomed into society. They were isolated from society. And that's what made these complications years and years down the line to like where we're having these conversations to this day, right now. And I don't know. I just think, I don't know. I don't really know the solutions to it, to be honest. I just know, like, I know the history. I understand I understand both sides. I understand what Jesse's saying and what they're saying.
we'll get to that.
Okay.
It was the Arabs who sold the blacks across the world. It wasn't white people who were just tiptoed over to Africa and just bought took white folks. They were being sold by other black people. Is that racism for black? And they're still doing that today in parts of Africa where blacks are enslaved by other blacks and Arabs. Is that
Where every
racism?
black person is not.
Is that racist?
Okay, so you wanna justify
No, I'm actually
black
raising
people
racism.
going against black people, but you don't want to look at white people at all
No,
for
that's
nothing
not-
that they have done wrong.
No, that's
they
not
used
true.
to grab our women, and this is serious. This is man to man. Me talking to you. You need to hear what I'm about to tell you. They used to grab our women that was pregnant, and they used to get a horse and tie both her legs to
To
two
different horses
and
and
split
make
her
the horses
apart.
go.
They used to smash our babies' heads. They used to feed our babies
To alligators. And that's
And
not
you say that ain't
wickedness.
racism?
But anytime you have slavery like that, someone that's controlling you, they're going to torture you like that.
Okay,
All,
the question
all people have been in
is
some
it
form of
racism?
slavery, and they're going to do that.
Is it
No,
racism?
that's not racist.
Oh shit! I know towards the end they were like, what the fuck? Who am I talking to? Like, nah, man. Jesse trolling y'all, man. He trolling y'all. But at the same time, there's some truth in what he's saying too. And there's truth that we need to acknowledge. I mean, like, that's why I read books from Thomas Sowell. That's why I listen to Larry Elder. I listen to Jesse Lee Peterson. I listen to the other sides of the argument so that we can have a decent dialogue about this conversation. And we can sit here all day and say, bad whitey. But we also need to, like, kind of take into consideration the role that blacks played in it as well, and we have to acknowledge it. I mean, the Ghanaian president opened up citizenship to African Americans to be able to come back, and that was an apology for what happened during the transatlantic slave trade. Many countries in Africa, so not many, but some of them have acknowledged that was a problem, that they were part of the transatlantic slave trade. Whites played their roles in it too, and again, like I said, who fucked over black people? Everyone did. The Portuguese were the ones that created the concept for race. And through that, we now have what we have nowadays, where, you know, in some communities, darker skinned people across the board, like Latino community, anywhere, like darker skinned people are considered less. But, you know, anyways, a story for another day, y'all. All right, I'm out, y'all. Peace.